Welcome to the Football Guys Dynasty Show. It's me, your favorite professional nerd, Jagger May. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, our Dynasty captain, Jeff Bell. And then with us, this very special guest, a good friend, and now a new teammate. It is Mike Cash. I don't even know where you're from anymore, Mike, because you're with us now.
Yeah.
You're a football guy. We're going to have him on here regularly, but we have to discuss some tough news. Let's get into it. Christian McCaffery, guys. It's Jover. It's and I've never seen it more appropriate here. He's old. He keeps getting injured. Uh at what point are we worried about all the 49ers at this point? That's just my take, but Jeff, what's yours?
Yeah, I'm viewing this as a write-off for the 2024 season, probably for the 49ers. I think we're probably watching the last month of 49ers football for Deebo Samuel. I would expect he's probably not going to be there next year. Some of that is, well, the Brandon Ayuk contract extension is part of it, using a first-round pick on Ricky Pearsall and him looking at least interesting enough to see more, but then also having Juwan Jennings develop as kind of almost the true number one receiver right now, given the rotation. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, health wasn't able to get there this year. I think he's still probably got some left in the tank. He certainly looked like it last night prior to the injury. He looked good, strong against Buffalo. Whatever that injury, the shoulder that they're kind of monitoring with Brock Purdy, I'm expecting that we'll see Brock Purdy shut down here at some point relatively soon, probably, especially if they were to lose another game and really fall out of this thing in the NFC West.
Mike, where were you at? And more importantly, do you think there's even a trade market anymore for Christian McCaffrey that's worth it?
No, I think the trade market for dynasty leagues, it's going to be tough for you to buy into him. We're talking about a 29-year-old running back coming off of a season filled with injury news and things that we don't want to see. And then we're talking about for the 49ers, I love what Jeff's talking about. They're not going to be able to keep this core together anymore. You're going to have to pay Brock. You see all of these different weapons that are, under contract, able to be used. And then you have Brandon Ayuk coming back from injury. He just signed a big extension. So they got to find a place to put Christian McCaffrey. And right now they're probably just going to ride him out, use him for what he's worth. And then maybe we see a Dalvin Cook saga in a year or two. But I think he has 1 or 2 more years of fantasy relevance. It just might not be the exact gold mine that we thought it was before.
Yeah. I know I put the usual trade fillers out there on Blue Sky on Twitter, and I had someone was just like, I sold Christian McCaffrey and got Bucky Irving a first and a second, and then he later he was just like, this is from 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, no, okay, yeah. No. I was just like, come
That's
on,
not happening now.
Yeah.
I had somebody that they were trying to sell Christian McCaffrey, and I was semi-interested just because my running back 2 in that league is a little bit weaker. And I told him a first. I'll give you a first. And that's what I told him last week prior to the injury. That first is not on the table anymore. So
would you buy him for a second? Jeff, you wouldn't buy him at all. Neither you and I'm just like, it's done. I'm never no, I just don't want
I would buy him for a contender second right now, probably just to see
a late second
out, a late second. Yeah. I mean, if I'm thinking I'm going to win my league, it's certainly a move till next year, but that's probably the market that you're looking for. Like I said, prior to the injury, a first, I didn't feel comfortable going much above that. And now again, off the table. Sorry.
Yep. Now I guess we'll look to the rest of the backfield now. I know people are joking. They're like, Isaac Guerrero, league winner, any first. I don't, guys, just chill out. Because like Jeff said, I think the 49ers are closer to packing it in than they are to give Isaac Guerrero 20 carries and this offense is just going to light it up. I guess I wouldn't pay more than a third for Guerrero. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too cheap. Mike, what about you?
I don't think you want to buy him for anything more than a third. You're not sending a playoff second. You're not sending a high second with how good this running back class looks in 2025. You can get him for a third and plug him in as an RB2 or a flex option. That's great. But yeah, let's cool it with the league winner. He's going to be a medium RB2 if he gets the volume, but maybe they just take more Deebo snaps at running back. Or maybe they move in some other random running back they find off the street.
Yeah, that's what I was joking with Jeff and Joey. We were talking about the Sunday Morning Live show, and I feel like half the time on that show, I'm just telling people the guy who had to have an entire backfield die for him to live. You probably shouldn't be trading a lot. You probably shouldn't be putting him in over someone who's been giving you 10 to 12 points a game just because they missed one because of injury. I was saying that with Brian Robinson. Everyone's like, Brian Robinson's bad. I'm like, he was injured, and then football's hard sometimes, but like, like I just don't think we should freak out. Jordan Mason's done, so that I don't even know. I guess Jordan Mason might be somebody next year, but it's hard for me to buy in anyone else in this backfield.
No, I think they waived Patrick Taylor. I don't know if they signed him back or not, but I know there was a news item that he was waived. If he was there, I would expect him to split some of the passing game work with Guerrero, but again, I don't believe he's there.
Cody Schrader? I had hope at one point.
I could be convinced.
No, I don't know. I think Guerrero, I don't know that you're going to see much passing down work, and that's probably the concern. He falls into one of these backs that if he's not getting targets, then he really kind of becomes touchdown dependent or very, very high yardage dependent. And at some point, we're looking at laundry with what the 49ers are putting on the field right now.
Mm-hmm. Before we go any further, we got to pay the usual bills. If you like this content, if you like Mike's face, if you like Jeff, hit that like button and subscribe. More importantly, you guys on the audio side, it super duper helps us out if you leave a review. I will answer your trade questions. You can write us a little note, whatever. Just give us 5 stars. It's too bad you can't see Mike's mustache, but if you guys want to comment on his mustache, it is there. I will accept that as well. And I will read that comment out loud. Just go on Spotify or Apple, leave us that review. Also, go to footballguys.com/plans. You might have just missed our Cyber Monday sale, but we're always doing fun stuff over there, and we are gearing up on rookie content. I got stuff. Jeff handles the roundtable, as well as like a Dynasty Movement article. He writes a lot of stuff, some heck and chonkers over there. So go to footballguys.com/plans today. Jeff, Patrick Mahomes, you got him on the sheet. You put this out there. You were Moses on Mount Sinai, and you came down and you said, Patrick Mahomes shall have, I don't know why you sound like Martin Luther King. Patrick Mahomes will have redemption and come back. And it seems like that has happened. Do you think that he's still a buy at this point? Or are you just like, yeah, I'm right, and you're just holding on?
Well, it turns out Patrick Mahomes is good at football. And
what?
I said it 2 months ago, and a shout out to our good friend Dave Kluge, because Dave kind of said something aggressive in the midseason, and he said that you should drop Patrick Mahomes and add Bo Nix. Dave ended up being right in redraft. Dave and hats off to him, and he was only right because Bo Nix turned out to be very, very good, because as soon as he said that, Patrick Mahomes turned it around, and he has been Patrick Mahomes. He's averaging, since week 8, he's averaging 265 yards per game. That works out to a 17-game pace of 4,500 yards. He's right on a 17-game pace of 35 touchdown passes. He's doing all the Patrick Mahomes things. He's back to being a mid-quarterback one. He's about 21 points per game since that week 8 stretch. You're getting everything that you expected. You when you drafted him, given the all new weapons that they signed, you were hoping for one of those like 5,500 crazy yard, 50 touchdown pass seasons. And we knew we weren't going to get that very soon. But I think he has lived up for the most part the second half of the season to what your realistic expectations should be of him. He is a tier back from the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens, the Jalen Hurts. He just doesn't have that same toolbox to be able to get there in fantasy scoring. But he turns out he's good. He's not, we can drop all this stats about Patrick Mahomes being quarterback 16 and all this nonsense and going back to the end of the season last year, whatever it might be. The fantasy points have arrived. And there's also a little bit of a news item that we might get Hollywood Brown in the regular season as well. So Patrick Mahomes, still good.
Yeah. Mike, how much would you pay for Patrick Mahomes now? Because, and one of my tough leagues with the homies, we were kind of talking about how I believe the rankings for QBs have always been appropriate, but the trade price has kind of eclipsed what the ranking is, where if you're looking at a chart, the trade value for some of these top end QBs, it looked like exponential growth. It's like, okay, I get that you're the top ranked QB, but I shouldn't trade my whole roster for you. So do you think that we've kind of regressed back to the mean now? And how much is too much for Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I think it's kind of league dependent, which everybody loves that cop out answer. Like some leagues, you're going to try to go buy a quarterback, and it'll be like 3 firsts is the starting point for Mahomes, Allen, Daniels. They start naming guys, and they're like, it'll be 3 firsts at least, and then throw me another player. What I would be doing if I'm trying to go get Mahomes is I would find a quarterback that maybe I'm a little worried about what their future holds. Like maybe an Anthony Richardson, although his trade value is kind of tanked. Maybe some of the older guys that you're a little bit worried about, like Stafford. Like find somebody that you don't feel great about, and then offer a first and a second on top, and see where that conversation goes. Because now you're getting out of that risk, like saturated asset, whether it's due to age or whether it's due to maybe they're not good at football, which I think Anthony Richardson rules. Let's get that out of the way. But maybe you're not willing to take on that risk. Go move to a safer asset in Mahomes.
So you nailed it. That's where I'm at.
Would you put that first and second on top of Justin Herbert to move to Patrick Mahomes?
Absolutely not.
No.
I think Justin Herbert has the same yearly ceiling. Like right now, we're seeing him make Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman throw the ball, which is quite a feat in and of itself. And he's doing it with Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston. So I think once they go get a real receiver, Justin Herbert's going to be shooting up everybody's rankings. We're going to say buy low, but like if you want to buy low, buy him now.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence in a first? That's where we're getting weird now, because I probably would take that. I would. What is the injury? Do we know that there?
Heavy concussion.
I was gonna say concussed.
Okay.
Yes. And
okay, shoulder. So if I'm rebuilding, I might do that. I don't think Doug Peterson's going to be there, and I'm willing to make that gamble. But I am getting to the point where I just want nothing to do with the Jaguars. I just think Shad Khan is a clown. So
I think the quarterback's an interesting conversation. We desperately needed this crop of rookies to hit, and I do believe that they hit. They, for the most part, from everything that we've seen, they hit in a big way. When you look at Jaden Daniels and the way he's being valued across Dynasty, when you look at, Caleb Williams, I've always been a believer on Caleb Williams, never swayed there. I know like some people got real iffy there for a minute, but he looks pretty back now. Drake May has looked great since the jump. Bo Nix looks fantastic, and Michael Penix I'm ready to see it in Atlanta, but I don't know if
man. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't have him on here. And if it wasn't for this already being a dense sheet and having the Christian McCaffery, I would have, because man, that was ugly. It was not on time, and then on just a simple 5-yard out, like a quick out, that ball was like 3 seconds late. It was just like cooked allegations, I think, are at all-time high.
Well, there's a massive, now that we're on the Falcons, there's a massive game this week for the Falcons with Kirk Cousins going back to Minnesota. He loses that game, and the Buccaneers win. They squandered that 3-game lead that they had built over the Buccaneers a month ago, and I think that's probably the point where you think really long and hard about putting Penix in.
Yeah. Agree. So go and buy Penix, guys. Now I'm actually going to go try to go ahead and get ahead of it. Maybe someone didn't see the 4 picks. Every one of them was egregious. It wasn't like Drake May had one where it was a oopsie daisy from the receiver. It was like, man, I'm going to triple pump and never look away from this receiver and throw it anyway with some weak velocity. It was ugly football, but we'll stay on schedule and we'll move on to our next one. Jonathan Taylor, Indianapolis running back, excuse me. Jeff, where are you at on here? Those bags are getting heavy, but the Colts look better. And I think he's starting to be the player, at least I thought I was going to buy. In some cases, I'm not sure.
He's sitting at Dynasty running back 9, which feels aggressive to me. I understand the player that Jonathan Taylor has been in the past, but when you really look at it, he had that fantastic second year where he had 1,800 yards, led the league in rushing. That was 3 seasons ago. And right now, he's not involved in the pass. He did catch a touchdown, which is great. He hasn't gone over, I think the number is like 14 receiving yards since something like week 3. So he's not involved in the passing game at all, especially with Anthony Richardson there, even though he did catch a touchdown. I understand. But at the same time, when you look at the profile, you need him to be that. It's almost like the Isaac Garundo conversation we started the show with, where he could go for 90 yards and that might mean you get 9 fantasy points out of it. And what's going on the goal line? Is it going to be an Anthony Richardson shove touchdown type situation? It's just that I see a player that has held high dynasty valuation over the last 5 years, basically. And he's still getting that valuation. The numbers don't match up to it. He's sitting as a mid-tier running back 2 when you look at his fantasy scoring. And I think after this year, he's going to be 26. He's going to be looking at that age cliff start to hammer really hard. There's going to be a lot of people this offseason that are going to be pulling every number possible on Anthony Richardson. And when you turn the tape off and you pull the numbers on Richardson, not a lot looks flattering. When you watch the tape, I think that there are a lot more than people realize. I just think you have a situation, a confluence of factors where people are going to wake up one day, realize, well, Jonathan Taylor's 26. It's been 3 seasons since he's really been that elite fantasy back. What are we doing here with him?
It's crazy. A conversation on Blue Sky, someone was just like, where do you put Genty next to Jonathan Taylor? And people still, I think Genty's a much better prospect than Jonathan Taylor was because of receiving profile. I think people have always ignored the lack of receiving profile in Jonathan Taylor's career. And it's just never happened. It's never going to happen. And that's always going to limit him. What do you think I guess, Mike, to you, would you rather have Kenneth Walker or Jonathan Taylor at this point?
I think Kenneth Walker, and I think that's not really that close. Like, one of them is a better rusher, better receiver, whether or not he's actually getting the pass. But like, it's Kenneth Walker by a lot.
What about Bucky Irving now? He's the new hotness.
Oh man, the draft capital nerd in me wants to say no, it's Jonathan Taylor, but like, Bucky Irving looks great, and I loved him pre-draft. I thought his measurables just didn't put the NFL in a place where they could draft him high and feel good about it. So now that he's getting a shot, like, it's his backfield. So I'm going to say Bucky, and I'm probably going to get comments about that.
What about Chase Brown?
They're always.
Here's my issue with Chase Brown. I don't actually think that he's good at football. I think he's
very fast.
He's very explosive. I think that he's really good if the field is open in front of him. But my guy, he needs like a seeing eye dog to help find the hole. So if we could just get him in wide open lanes and playing with Joe Burrow all the time, that's great. But I think Cincinnati can use a day 2 or a day 3 pick on a running back, and all of a sudden Chase Brown disappears into smoke.
Honestly, want to buy Chase Brown just so I could sell him high right now, because like, I'm sure he's gonna have another pop game. Because like, you're right, but Jeff, you'd rather have Chase Brown or Jonathan, or would you rather have like Chase Brown plus, depending on what the plus was for Jonathan Taylor?
The plus. Give me the Chase Brown plus, I think, right now for Jonathan Taylor, because I think Brown's shown enough that I don't know. I don't expect a 4th or 5th round rookie to go in and unseat Chase Brown, given what we've seen. I think he's looked good over the past month plus and really established himself there. But that's the type of pivot that I would be looking to do. I think Bucky Irvin's a good call. I think Chase Brown's a good call. Those players are sitting around running back 15 in dynasty rankings, and Jonathan Taylor sitting at running back 9. I just don't think that the difference is that big on those.
He's closer to where Travis Etienne is now at this point than where his actual value is, if you really think about it, because Travis Etienne is in the shadow realm right now, and arguably is probably a good buy, So
yeah, I mean, if Etienne gets moved, if he ends up in Dallas or something like that, then what are we going to do with him? Shoot him right back up to the top.
Probably. Mm-hmm. Next one on the list, we have another running back. Bum, bum, bum. Breece Hall. Jeff, what is your gospel on Breece Hall?
I think he's going to get shut down, to be honest. I know he came Yeah. He came into the week. He was dealing with that knee injury. He left part of the first half. He came back a little bit in the second half, but we saw Isaiah Davis get involved really kind of for the first time, catching that touchdown there. Braylon Allen. I think the Jets they're basically praying for the Broncos to lose tonight just to be able to have some reason to actually show up to the stadium next week, because if the Broncos win, they're all but mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and they've last night obviously lost the division to the Bills. So what do they have to play for? And at some point, they're going to reach that conversation of, if Breece Hall is managing a knee injury to get out there on the field, he's much too valuable to the franchise to be managing a knee injury to be able to play pointless football in December. And I think you're going to see a situation where he is shut down, and they're not going to move on him. He's going to be elite back next year. We'll see who that coach is next year. That's going to be a big part of that. But I think that in terms of being a quote unquote league winner, I think you better be stocked with Braylon Allen and maybe even Isaiah Davis right now, because I don't know if it's going to be there for Breece Hall in 2024.
I mean, who's going to be the QB? Because Aaron Rodgers is like, I don't want to play here. You know, it's you don't want to lay in the bed that you made, buddy.
I mean, they keep losing games. They're going to be having a rookie quarterback.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
He's saying this team stinks, but he's the guy that brought in all of his buddies and friends and is just setting up the roster for failure. And I was like, all right, see ya.
If Alan Lazard was healthy, we'd be having a different conversation with this team about this team.
That's the problem. More Alan Lazard.
Yeah. Oh man. Again, he's a talented player, but with running backs, I get worried because you guys remember Javonte Williams? He's only just now kind of getting it together. He might get another touchdown right here. I don't know who's in right now. But it's just worrisome, in my opinion. It's worrisome. What do you think? What's the price, Mike?
I think you're buying for a late first, but like anything 105 or higher, like I feel really good about Ashton Genty. I feel really good about Amari and Hampton. I feel really good about the Ohio State running backs. Like start getting down that list. Like I love Breece Hall as a prospect, but like these guys are also very good prospects and likely day 1 or day 2 picks. So you can refresh and get a little younger. Might as well.
See, I would be trying to move my Chase Browns for Breece Hall. You know, like players like that.
Oh, sure. I would too.
You say that, Jeff, but like, yeah, you say that, but like someone's like, well, I'm not going to trade Chase Brown. Look how good he is. And it's like Mike says, he's like, not that good, man. He's out there with a cane, you know, trying to find the hole. And, you know, it's, I don't want to get on a rant here, but like it was so validating here. Mike said, I was like, yeah, this dude, like he's like a sim or video game bumping into like the line. And then when he gets through, he like squirts out for like 40 yards. And that like only goes so far. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't even know if Zach Taylor is going to be that coach next year. So I just, I'd rather have someone like Breece Hall. So do you think he's outside in dynasty value, the top 5 now, Jeff? Because I'm assuming we're going to have Saquon, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, where does he fit in that conversation now?
I still think he's right behind them. I was willing to move him above. Like he's definitely behind Gibbs comfortably, I think right now. But at the same time, we're talking tiers. Maybe he bumped down a tier, but I don't know that he moved down in ranks so much to say. I just think you are going to have a buy window here is my thought on Breece Hall, especially is if they do shut him down, you're going to have some people that panic about that. You're going to have an opportunity to get in and buy. I would still certainly buy Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is a very, very talented back. I'm not concerned long-term about it. And we saw last year the way that he really was that league winning back, the way that he's able to be involved in the pass game, the explosion, the big playability is there. I still think he's an elite level NFL running back, but I do think he's behind the Bijan Robinsons and the Jahmyr Gibbs when it comes to dynasty.
I want to say one thing about Breece Hall before we move off of him. Like the yards per touch are almost identical. The opportunities are almost identical. He's flirting with 18 a game. What's weird is that the touches are the same because of the targets, but he's converting the catches at a lower percentage. So somehow Aaron Rodgers isn't getting the ball to Breece Hall as effectively as Zach Wilson was last year. So if you add in that catch percentage, like quite literally PPR leagues, he bumps up 1 full point. And now we're talking about him as the RB4 or 5 instead of the RB 11 he is on the year.
Well, hey guys, Devontae Adams is getting targets and Garrett Wilson's getting targets, and they're not scoring fantasy points either. So I mean,
I hear if you collect 3 disappointing Jets players, you get a free disappointing Jets player on top of that. Because it's like if I keep collecting Garrett Wilson's and Breece Hall, what do I have? A 6-6 team. You know. Our next guy is what do you know? Great at football. Mark Andrews. Nana boo boo. Told you guys. Jeff, what do you think about Mark Andrews?
I just think it's weird because you and I both do the rankings and the ECR contest, and we go in there. I went in there last week. Where do you think Mark Andrews was ECR ranked last week.
It yelled at me for having him too. I moved him up, and it was like, man, where was he at? It was like he was outside the top 12.
Tight end 18. Yeah. Are you kidding me? I am tight end 9. I was like top 4 in terms of value or in terms of ranking in the entire week. And he's been, I understand that week 3, week 4, those zeros hurt. He's been Mark Andrews this year. He's been a top 5 tight end all year long, and you take those 2 weeks out, he's been a top 3 tight end. He's getting ranked as tight end 18. I understand the Eagles are a difficult matchup for tight ends. There is no justification for ranking him at tight end 18. And this is something that I see the ranks and I see them weekly, and they've been way too low on him weekly. I don't think his value matches up with what is being put out there in terms of ranks, in terms of like that, those types of things, because I do think that people that hold him in their leagues, that have him in their leagues, realize, hey, I've had Mark Andrews. He's been a top 5 tight end ever since everybody freaked out about him in week 4. But it seems for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the projection models or what it is spitting him out way, way lower than where he's actually ending up.
Well, it's always the usual things. Lamar Jackson doesn't pass that much. Isaiah likely breakout. What other narrative can I throw in here, Jeff? What are we missing?
He hurt his ankle and got in a car crash.
Yeah, diabetes.
He had a knee injury.
Voted for Ralph Nader. I'm not sure, but this was the most obvious buy, I think. This is why I tell people go buy Sam Laporta. Well, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I hear is nothing. Is nothing words. It's just, like, well, he's just blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll buy him. So just go get good tight ends and it'll work out. All of them are bad, guys. All of them are bad. Go play DFS if you're going to play this game week to week. I'm sorry, Mike. That was 2 rants in a row. I'm assuming, or at least hope, you like Mark Andrews.
I do. I like Mark Andrews. Unlike Chase Brown, I think he is good at football. I will offer a different perspective on why people might be a little hesitant with Mark Andrews. So on this season, he is 24th among tight ends in targets per game. We can throw out the week 3 and week 4 where there were zeros. Let's just say since week 9. Let's say, maybe he got over the injury. Maybe he's good. 19th in targets per game. The volume still isn't there. His snaps are down from his historical precedents. The touchdowns just came back. So he's been scoring touchdowns almost every week for the past couple of weeks. And that's why he's been so good. And he's Mark Andrews. He's going to score touchdowns. We should continue to rank him high and value him highly because he is good at football and he's going to do those things. But the volume isn't there like it has been for him in the past, which could cause some concern. So I understand that perspective. But if people are still stinky and they think Mark Andrews is bad, I will buy him happily.
I hear you. On the underlying value argument or the underlying volume argument. We so often, I feel like we see these players that do get the volume. Like we're screaming at the TV, Hunter Henry should be scoring 5 more touchdowns. Meanwhile, we're saying Mark Andrews sucks. Like, how does he should not have this many touchdowns? And it's like sometimes guys score touchdowns and other guys don't score touchdowns.
Yep.
And it's just
the way she goes.
You're playing an offense that scores a lot of touchdowns,
yes.
and you play an offense that doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. Yes. You're probably going to score more touchdowns.
Completely agree. I'm just offering a perspective.
I get it, but I get it. I get that argument. I just think it's some guys score touchdowns, and guys that play in the offenses that score the most touchdowns tend to score the most touchdowns.
Yes,
I think tight ends are like complicated running backs, and the fact that they're really not that complicated. The Lions, they score a lot of points. They got a lot of mouths to feed. Like, oh no, my tight end's in a good offense. Protect me from points.
I say it every time it comes up, Jag, on the Sunday show. You know it. You'll get these questions that people will kind of be like, well, I mean, I'm really concerned about them building a big lead, and is he going to play? And it's like, I have never once looked at a player and said, I am very concerned that his team is going to score too many points this week. I don't want to play him in fantasy.
Yeah. Those points got to go somewhere, guys. Anyway, go get Mark Andrews. That's the moral of the story. You should have already had. Done too late, bud. Anyway, Bryce Young. Dare I say it? We judged a quarterback too quickly in this day and age in America.
We would never.
Is the Yeah, Youngassance, Bryce Young Renaissance. I mean, he's still like what, like 12 years old essentially.
He looks like it.
Yeah. Jeff, obviously this was you could probably still buy him. People are still probably selling him.
Yeah, and when he was benched, I think you probably pull up the archives and when he was benched, they were putting a new offense in. They had a whole bunch of new pieces. Everybody was trying to figure out their role, and things were moving too fast for Bryce Young. What they were able to do was play Andy Dalton, have a stabilized-ish veteran quarterback presence there that understood what he was supposed to be doing, that allowed the other players to understand what they were supposed to be doing. And then when you put Bryce Young back into that situation, suddenly you have players capable of supporting Bryce Young and allowing him to develop in the ways that he needed to develop. Benching a young quarterback is not a terrible thing. There's, I don't know, the social media fishbowl, whatever it might be, gets so bent out of shape about a young quarterback getting benched. He's getting benched because he's struggling and he needs a minute and he needs to reset. It's not the end of the world. And Bryce Young is the perfect example of this, where things were simply moving too fast. The players were not able to support him. They had to stabilize. Now they put him back in. Now he's much, much more comfortable. And I put Bryce Young on this. I really just kind of want to talk about the Carolina offensive environment as a whole, because we saw Jonathan Brooks come back. We saw him come back 2 weeks ago. He didn't do much against Kansas City, kind of a cameo appearance. We kind of saw a little bit more of the Detroit South that maybe they want to build this past week. Snap share was still heavily slanted towards Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard did not get any passing targets. Jonathan Brooks got 3 touches, ended up being pretty close. I'm very bullish on what we've seen so far from Bryce Young coming back in here. I don't know if you can play Chuba Hubbard in fantasy right now if you get to the fantasy playoffs. I mean, we'll have a week before we see that, but I don't know if it's there right now with what Jonathan Brooks is going to do and where the ceiling might be on this offense. And the other part too is we saw Adam Thielen come back and be that player that we saw the first portion of 2023 and get heavy volume targets. And he should have had 2 touchdowns. I don't know what happened on the first one, but he did get the second one. Adam Thielen might really be laying under the radar as a player that you can go out and grab very, very, very cheap if you have had some injuries, some other situations that you're hoping to, especially we talk about these 10 and 11 start leagues, that you just need that last guy because you're sneaking in as the 6th seed in the playoffs. That could be a really under the radar move for you to go grab.
You heard it, guys. Jeff Bell, Adam Thielen, league winner. Anyway, Mike, what do you think?
No, I think the game is definitely, I love the call out that Bryce Young, the game is slowed down. Like he was trying to rely on athleticism that he just doesn't have,
doesn't have.
Yeah. Like it worked in college because it was Alabama and everything was cool. Now he gets the NFL, and getting benched was great for him because now he's throwing with anticipation when he's about to get hit rather than trying to like skirt out of it and make another play. Like he's just making the smart play, which is great. And that's what we want to see. I would love the Panthers to get a real wide receiver. I love Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's a league winner, quote Jeff Bell. But maybe 2025 they go get a real difference-making receiver on the outside, or Legette grows into that role. I think the offensive environment has a lot of room to grow, and Bryce Young has shown signs that maybe they can invest in the offense as a whole and not need to reset with another quarterback.
Agree. I'm really happy with the Bryce Young shares that I have. Next is a doo-doo running back that I don't like, so I'm curious to see what Jeff has. Rico Dowdle. Jeff, where you at with him?
It's less a pro Rico Dowdle and more, I think the Cowboys have bigger needs than Ashton Genty. And it seems like Jerry Jones really, really wants Ashton Genty, at least from what's being put out there. I mean, personally, I think they need another receiver opposite CeeDee Lamb would be more valuable for the franchise than to spend a draft pick on Ashton Genty. And it's less
the Jalen Tolbert disrespect. Yeah, come on, Jeff.
He's so fast.
Yeah. Well, we saw Brandon Cooks come back and catch a touchdown. So the corpse of Brandon Cooks going out there and having the Thanksgiving special on a touchdown there. So that was fun. But I just think when you're looking at team building, I mean, Travis Hunter is like the perfect Dallas Cowboy, and they're not going to be able to get him, I don't think. But that would be the perfect one where that would fit very, very well, I feel like. But I'm concerned from what I've seen that they are going to aggressively add Genty to this offense. And I don't know. I think long-term team building, I think there's more value in to have a receiver opposite CeeDee Lamb, and then go back. We talked about Omarion Hampton or a player like that when we did the running back show to do like a 3rd or 4th round rookie. I don't think Dowdle's been awful this year. And the last couple weeks, he's been kind of passable, and he is going to be a free agent. Maybe that opens up. Maybe they go out and get a Travis Etienne or something like that. I just don't love the idea of using that high pick on Genty, even if he is a very special player, into this Dallas offense.
Yeah, I think they could get a cornerback, a safety, whatever. They basically have a need everywhere but quarterback, unless you're a Dallas fan and then you don't know better. And they should get that. And then Quinshon Judkins would be great. I think like there's a lot of these good running backs that'll be upgrades for Rico Dowdle, and you still have Rico Dowdle who is usable, and you could use something else with your pick. Because you're right. You're right. It's like, well, Ashton Genty's there. You got to take him. I was like, no, you actually don't. You could just go to get a good player and then go fill a need in the 2nd round and then still have, I mean, Omarion Hampton is a blue chip running back. You could, and you'll be fine with him. But I have zero faith in Jerry Jones to make the right decision. So we'll kick it over to you, Mike. Are you pro Rico Dowdle? Because he's one of these players I'm going to go try to go get Kenneth Walker. I'm going to go try to turn into ETN, Breece Hall, some of these other guys that we talked about.
Yeah. Rico, I had made my own little show notes ahead of time. I wrote, I will not acknowledge any positive Rico Dowdle chat, and he's 100% getting replaced. Earlier on Twitter, I wrote a list of names of current prospects that I think are better than Rico Dowdle, and I think it went 14 deep.
That's everyone, man. That's everyone.
I think there's probably more. I think I missed some. So I don't think that he's that great. I think that he's easily replaceable, and I think that knowing Jerry Jones and his tendencies in the draft, like if you can send Rico Dowdle in a 2nd and get anybody with a little more job security, a little more talent, for lack of a nicer word, like just go find somebody that's a little better for your team.
And that very replaceable Rico Dowdle just ran for 112 yards in a Cooper Rush offense. So
against the New York Giants, I refuse to acknowledge it.
I'm on Team Mike here. I do hear what you're saying. I do think that Rico Dowdle has proven himself to be a good rotational back, but a lot of people, I know there's going to be some smooth brain out there that's going to be like, Rico Dowdle, like, look, he's earned it. He's earned it. Like he's confidence, blah, blah, blah.
I'm not saying that. I'm still saying you need to draft a rookie.
I know.
You don't need to draft the rookie.
It's like, you remember in our comments where it was like, how could you disrespect Zamir White? Did you see that legendary Hall of Fame 4-game run he had in 2023? And that's why I feel like, that's where I feel like we were at with Rico Dowdle. So just be careful. And Jeff, you are right. I get it. I'm not crapping on the gamesmanship there, but we will end it right there, folks. We're going to have Mike on the rest of the week. We're going to talk about some rookie QBs. Yay, exciting, except not really. And then we're going to have our trade show. As always, my name's Jagger Mate. That's Jeff Bell. And that's Mike Cash. We love you, and we will see you on the next one.